Okay, good morning, Wednesday. Well, we're going to try something. We got a little different setup. So we are going on IG again. We are going here on StreamYard. So hopefully we've got a lot of people that we're going to be able to reach today. We got a lot to cover. But Sam, how are you? How's your week?
Hey man, good week. Hoping for this break in the weather, man. It gets real cold at night, but
Right.
got a big concert coming up this weekend. Another big festival this weekend. Just happy to be working. See people have a good time.
Yeah, we've had a lot going on, different events throughout the world. But, we're going to have that every week, aren't we? Like I said, warm in the morning, cold at night. We're hitting what? 69, 70, 71 day and going down to 40 at night.
Too crazy, man. The weather's so bipolar right now. It need a smoke break,
It
quick.
needs something. It needs to be broken up with. I don't know. See other people, see other seasons. I don't know what we need to do right now. We need to go on a break.
And most definitely, man.
But yeah, we're going to cover a couple different things today. Of course, we got our cannabis news. We've had quite a few things going on there, if some of y'all haven't seen. A couple of things interesting that we've kind of spoke on in the past, but we also want to talk a little bit about some mental health stuff, even though next month is the mental health awareness. I've had a few things happen with some friends that have really put this on my head and my mind a lot. So I really wanted to do some of that today. But, well, let's get into some of the notes first. And how about Kentucky? Remember, we talked about that last week. What do you think? Got any change there? I don't know if you got to see that or not, but we can now officially add Kentucky to the list of states that has allowed the use of marijuana for medical purpose. The governor signed a medical cannabis legalization bill last week. So that happened. We discussed it on Wednesday as a possibility. It's now been done. So that happened at the end of the week. It says that I've been pushing for medical cannabis and sports betting for years. Today, I signed both bills into law. Team Kentucky delivers and we get results. And that was from Governor Andy Beshear on March 31st, actually, it says. So a little bit over a week ago. But we do have that official update. Kentucky's now on the board.
That's wonderful news, and that's just for two reasons. You got two of the greatest basketball teams located right there in that state with University of Louisville and the University of Kentucky.
Right.
Both championship caliber teams with a long history of champions, prestigious alumni. Probably got one of the largest alumni of NBA players all the way across the board just from that state alone.
Right. Right.
So
Absolutely.
now that's definitely something. Now that's definitely something that was needed for that state.
I was going to say this is just a pure guess, but Kentucky's probably one, and what? Carolina's number two, if you want to go with that route on those players.
So,
That's just a guess off the top of my head.
yeah,
Sounds logical.
yeah, yeah, it is.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to move just a little bit over Maryland. How about this one? Maryland Senate passed a bill to regulate cannabis sales in the state last week. Now, they'll have to reconcile their bill with one passed by the House earlier in March. It also happens in the journey from bill to law. The language is identical with the bill when introduced in the two different chambers, but changes were made along the way. Expect more action on this as July 1st is the deadline. Think about that. That's going to be a fast approach because here we are in April, and it feels like we just had Thanksgiving and Christmas last week. So July is going to be here quick.
It's definitely knocking on the door. We are 4 months into the year, going on five, and the year has had a lot of eventful circumstances. So I definitely hope that things continue to go in a better direction. We just got to keep talking about these things and getting it out.
No, absolutely. Because the more we talk about it, the more we can keep in front of it, the more we can move forward with it, hopefully. Because another thing moving forward to is the Veterans Equal Access Bill. So Representative Brian Mast in Florida is reintroducing the bill to allow veterans the ability to use medical cannabis in the state where it is legal. This is why I'm reintroducing the bipartisan legislation called the Veterans Equal Access Act, which would make it easier for qualified veterans to access medical marijuana in states where it's legal. How important and valuable is this?
Now that's huge. We've talked in many shows about the veterans, saluting the veterans, and getting them all of the resources they need. They are, in my book, the number one citizen of this country. They've served, they put their time in, and they've done a commendable job of, as far as protecting the freedoms of this country. So we have to do everything we can, not only to acknowledge them, but to support them for all of the things that they go through.
No, absolutely. I mean, and for example, I don't have these stats in front of me, but we've got a huge, not just homeless problem here in America, but we have a lot of vets who are homeless. We have a lot of vets who have PTSD, who are going through things. Friend of ours, Gray, out in Vegas. One of the reasons he moved to Vegas is because he could have access to this, because he needed it through the PTSD of being in the military, and he couldn't do it here in Georgia. He couldn't really do it at that time in Mississippi, so he went to Vegas. This is vital. So, we got to get this passed, not just in certain where it's legal, as he states. This needs to be a national thing, and this needs to be covered by the VA bills, their medical expenses. It needs to be something that we can get to them, and it can be covered under insurance, and not just when they go to the VA hospital where it takes months, weeks for them to not only be seen sometimes, but to get the medicines they need. This needs to happen immediately. So Sammy, I'm not sure if you're there. If I lost you, I'm not hearing you. If you're talking, just letting you know.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, got you now.
Hello? Okay. All right. So, yes, switching back and forth in the app. What I was saying is in post service, the standards should be dropped between in service and post service for them to actually be able to receive those medical benefits. They need those benefits, they need the medicine itself to deal and cope with post war, post service.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine what these people have been through. I've known multiple vets. They've told the stories, but there's a difference between hearing the story and actually seeing it firsthand. So I know they've gone through a lot, that they're still dealing with a lot. And let's talk about here, for example, they've been in war. How many have talked about when they hear fireworks? It brings them back to that moment. So stuff that they deal with constantly. And we not only need to, they deserve for us to give them the best effort to help them with everything that they're struggling with.
Can you hear me, Nate? I mean, can you hear
I
me?
can. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having a little issue with my stream. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Change my Wi-Fi settings.
No problem. But just speaking of personal experience, for example, I've been in a room 3 different occasions where someone has died, and that was hard enough. And this was not something where it was a war setting. One was hospice, one was an incident that happened out in public. But those things were hard enough and traumatic. These people were dealing with innocent children, innocent women, their own countrymen. So there's a lot that they're going on in their mind and their frame of headspace that they're dealing with. And this equal access will definitely help them. But, as I was stating while you're trying to fix your stream there, this needs to be not just be in, say, Florida or Vegas, California. This needs to be in all 50 states. And this needs to be available for any veteran, no matter what their income status is, what their insurance status is, what they have going on. We need to be able to get that to them and help them immediately.
No, you're absolutely right. I have worked with a veterans hospital before, and it's really tough in that setting. There are a number of issues and concerns that there's a number of issues and concerns that the veterans have,
Mm-hmm.
and the PTSD is definitely is something that it's not just from a subjective standpoint. Objectively, it affects one veteran to the next in a
Mhm.
number of ways. So, whether it's the emotional highs on one end to the emotional lows on the other end, it is a full spectrum there that needs to be addressed and fine tuned for them, just to find the balance that they lost from serving.
Yeah, and for example, again, talking about not going through it personally, there's a brotherhood, there's a bond formed with those people, and every time something happens to one of their brother in arms, I'm sure that that takes them back to those moments, to those events, to that time frame. So it's multiplying anytime they hear about somebody else who's gone through something, or that they've lost someone, whether it be through a health issue, a car wreck, or let's be honest too, there is a high suicide rate in that veteran community.
It is. And just them coping and dealing with life, the world, after the fact. Um, it's just really hard. I've seen specialists that were in the military that before they went into the military, very very sharp, probably one of the sharpest people that you've seen in life, structured. Um, when you're subjected to seeing comrades that you fight with, you go to war with, get blown apart.
Right.
And they leave this world after they've tried to protect and defend the honor of the country. I know that deep down that does something to everyone, and for the ones who have to take a higher road, whether they're an Army Ranger, um, Green Beret, any of those specialists, the amount of training and the mind conditioning and the conditioning of their body to be able to serve the job at the higher level that they have to do, man, God help those gentlemen because and those women at the same time, and it's just because you've now laid it totally on the line,
Hmm.
and when it's taken away from you, and that's all you know, how do you even cope with that?
Right.
So there's some deeper issues and concerns that you have to look at. You have to have a certain training just to even be able to work at a veterans hospital, so that way that those officers can get the support that they need um, from their time of service. And then even some of them, even then, have to go through a form of medication uh, that will wipe their mind of the traumas that they went through while they were in service.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. We discussed before in the medical field how during the time of COVID, the medical field itself, their suicide rate went up dramatically because of everything they were seeing, of from children to elderly, all these people that were dying in the hospitals and what was going on. And think about this. You're talking about the medical end on these vet staff. These are the ones who are seeing the individuals who have their people have been shot up, arms blown off, even more gruesome and gory details than just someone laying on a ventilator. Now, all struggling death is horrific. I'm not trying to classify, but take it to that element. That's even a new level to what you were discussing.
Yeah, I have family members that have served, either they're currently serving or they're post. And I can already say that some of the stories and discussions of things that are embedded in their minds, and I don't want to talk about it because one, they're not really supposed to even really be talking about some of the things. Nonetheless, some of the missions or assignments that they're assigned to. So we have to keep part of those discussions classified. For the most part, just to even have an outlet to be
Mm-hmm.
able to relate to those things is mind blowing.
Right.
Some of the things I've heard, mind blowing. So, with that being said, they truly need help and services for a lifetime, not just for a week, not for a month, not just for a day. They need ongoing services, lifetime, every day, on demand as needed.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Think about it this for a minute, and I don't have this stat in front of me, but we all know this. How many different locations have have these type of services set up to where they can go to a meeting anytime they want? and I'm not saying that there aren't these cases in some cities, but we need to have the same things for these veterans where they can show up anytime, any place, to have counseling, to be in a group setting, to do what they need to help them out in that moment, not wait for a meeting in a week.
Absolutely. The one thing, just from an objective standpoint, as you observe things that happen, um, any person that has enlisted, whether they've able to serve their first tour and get their honorable discharge, to the ones who never made it to get an honorable discharge and they may have a dishonorable other than honorable discharge. Anybody that's been subjected to any form of duress in the military, when you have one of the largest governments in the world
Mm-hmm.
that should be able to provide the in-service support for those veterans no matter what.
Absolutely.
So a lot needs to change with the mindsets of our commander in chief, our Congress, and our Senate. For a lot of them who have not served, they don't know what it is to serve. Some of them have never been through the the ordinary bedrock situation of some of the citizens of this country to know and relate to the traumas and the struggles that they go through when they divert monies and aids to other countries when this country itself needs service, needs support, need help.
Yep. No, absolutely agree. Now, there is something that we're going to go to that's really great news. You see over my shoulder. Whoops, sorry, wrong end. You see over my shoulder there, Hawks jersey. They won last night. They're playing the Celtics in the next round. But we got some NBA news. We know the
That's
regular
good.
season is now
Great
over.
news.
Right. Be nice if we could hit one of those Celtic Hawks game, but we'll see. We'll talk about that one later. But anyways, so we're in the playoffs now. But guess what? The new collective bargaining agreement between the NBA and the Players Association would remove. Okay, go back a minute. Would remove cannabis from the list of banned substances, and it will allow players to invest in and promote cannabis companies and products.
There we go. That's that equity we've been talking about. They need it. They
Absolutely.
need it. We had so many players that have lost opportunity and livelihood. So this is groundbreaking for all of the ones that went through the setback of opening the gates of opportunity for the players of today's time, but then even still for the players of yesterday to have the opportunity to move further on to get in-service aid and treatment, but also be an entrepreneur in the industry.
Well, we've discussed before a couple of different NBA players who are doing stuff. But for example, when we were in Vegas for MJ BizCon, we saw what? I'd say roughly just NBA itself, what, 5 to 10 NBA players out there for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We can't call their names out, but
Right.
absolutely. Um, those guys are pioneering an opportunity for the guys that's in that space now, and for the guys of tomorrow. So tremendous opportunity.
Well, like you said, without giving a name out, a couple of those individuals were very recent in the last, let's say, 10 years in the NBA, predominant players. So they still got their pulse on the NBA, and not only can get other players to help, but be in that mutual beneficial realm of helping current players as well as bridging that gap to some of the older players. So it's fantastic news. And we'll see where that goes
No,
next.
absolutely is. Absolutely. I'm hoping for it to continue to go to the next level. That is great news.
NFL, NHL, rugby, MLS, all of those would be fantastic. I mean, think about the players in rugby. There's got to be a lot of concussion type syndromes in there. Same thing with the NFL, as we discussed. And of course, soccer headers. That's why they don't let kids under U8 do heads. It's illegal because of that. All of this would help and benefit every realm of sport.
It absolutely will. Definitely will. And I think for all of the athletes, whether it's men's, women's basketball, football, hockey, baseball, soccer, um, I mean, even track and field, everyone's going to need it. They're going to need things that allow them for recovery, pain management itself. These are things that are necessary. The rigors of just being an athlete, the wear and tear on
Hmm.
the body, and then having a strong mindset to rehabilitate yourself and recover from an injury, whether it's a muscle tear, a bruise, tendon or
Hmm.
ligament tear, possible bone fracture, bone break. Um, these are things that are everyday occurrences to
Hmm.
athletes. Our regular ordinary citizens don't go through those same things. Yeah, they may have a slip and fall here or there, maybe a stumble, maybe a car accident here or there, but athletes on a day-to-day basis have repeat occurrences, um, where their injuries can be chronic. They can go through chronic pain, which also affects their mental health, because now you can either still have a strong mindset and say, "Hey, I'll be back,"
Hmm.
or it can literally take your courage and your strength, and literally pound you into the ground. So you still have a subjectivity from mental health standpoint of what could happen to you in the day in the life of being an athlete.
No, absolutely. Like we've discussed, one, well, we've seen what's happened at the Olympics. So the IOC, we've got to get them on board with this as well. But like we said before, we see the player hurt on the field. We see the reports of how they're struggling, they're coming back in rehab. But what about these NFL players this time of year where they're dealing with all of the hits, all the things that happened all year, starting to train again and get ready for spring and the summer camps? We're not seeing that all the time. So that's why it's vitally important for us to do all of that.
No, it absolutely is. Um, Nate, what I want to say is, in the chat here, Jamise Clark, is a good friend. She is also an athlete. She is a trainer, formerly a trainer, and she's participated in a lot of fitness related events, um, that is along the lines of bodybuilding competition.
Well, yeah, we need to see if we can get her set up to join us on this link, say maybe like next Wednesday, and get all that input. It'd be great if we had a way to put in at this moment. But yeah, we'd love to get you on and get that this aspect and discussion more so.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Jay, we'll have to, just so that way we'll have to actually give you a link where you can actually join into the discussion. As of now, you can actually put any questions you have in the
Absolutely.
chat, and we'll definitely be able to talk and relate to it to the audience that we have for today's show. And then, of course, anybody that's listening to go back and do a playback, they'll still be able to go back and review it and
Absolutely.
discuss it on all of our social media. So appreciate you tuning in. And if you have any questions, definitely drop them in the chat. But we'll set you up to come in and
Yeah.
talk. If you'd like to provide any information, insight, or even just showing for supporting the industry,
Yeah.
we're definitely looking for other individuals as well, to join in the discussion to make this a normal conversation. A lot of times in societies right now, if what you know is what you know, or what you heard is what you heard, what we're trying to do is give you other things that you can relate to and understand when it comes to cannabis space, cannabis news, multiple cities, multiple circumstances, so that way that in this state of Georgia, we'll be able to see the process and the progress, of it going full recreational, full medicinal, so that way people can get the support and aid that they need, in this discussion that we're having today.
Yep. So we're going to switch gears and go from the NBA to the MLB. If you remember, a couple months ago, actually, geez, it may have almost been a year ago now, to be honest, we discussed Charlotte's Web out of Charlotte, who has worked out a deal for advertising with MLB within reason in certain states where it's allowed. We still don't know how all of that structure to work, but we're seeing progress. Guess what? Chicago Cubs are making histories again, one of the biggest MLB franchises history wise. But this time they're making it with a drink. The first MLB team with a CBD sponsor, Chicago based MYND drink, will have a signature beverage in 3 flavors at Wrigley. The product met the criteria for working with MLB teams received the NSF certification for sports design. The Cubs are releasing a guided meditation on YouTube as well, narrated by their play-by-play announcer, Pat Hughes. Cannabis is legal for adult use in Illinois and 20 other states. The MLB, as we've talked about before on here, is the first major league with a CBD sponsor. They've linked up with the CBD company, as we stated, Charlotte's Web, an exclusive multi-year deal, which they inked last October, but are just now having the drinks come out. CBD is federally legal with several athletes, including Bubba Watson, golfer, former NFL tight end Rob Gronkowski, U.S. women's national team Megan Rapinoe, and Richard Childress of NASCAR have all been sponsored by CBD brands. It's a start, right? We're not fully there, but hey, between the NBA and this, that's big news.
Wow. And that is definitely big for the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago, definitely a city of champions from the Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Cubs. So definitely, I think that, yeah, Chicago Blackhawks.
Mm-hmm.
That is excellent for that state. That equity that's being built there is tremendous.
So now
I'd love to see and hear something
right?
from. Yeah, and what's kind of ironic with that, I kind of have the feeling that there may be a possibility that Michael Jordan may have some form or association or push behind the scenes with it, and I think he may embrace it. It's a possibility. I'm speculating, but that would be tremendous if he would be able to co-sign it as well.
Well, and again, speculation. We don't know this, but there has been discussion that he's putting Charlotte Hornets up for sale. Maybe he's looking at going in a different avenue and crossing lines with multiple sports teams, multiple products. Not saying he's in the cannabis realm, but hey, it's a possibility. He's a businessman. He's smart. Why not?
Totally, and I truly feel that whatever his next move is going to be a great move. When he cash out for however many billion he cash out on this
1.6,
team, is that what the projected sale is?
Last time I saw, I think they said that he bought it for about 2.3 million, and he's looking at it having been sold for about 1.6.
That don't sound right. That means he's selling it for a loss.
No, he got it for 2.3 mil, and he's selling it for about 1.6 bill.
Nah, that can't be right. 2.3 million for a sports team? Nah, that's definitely not right.
When he bought
probably 230 million, not 2.3.
Well, either way, he's still what, 7 times over his increased value.
Yeah, now that is definitely a steal if it goes that way. We have to definitely do a deep dive and monitor that one, so that way we do have the correct numbers and statistics on it. But I promise you that with him, it's another big move coming for him as well.
Okay, here we go. It says he bought it for 175 million, and they're now worth 1.5.
Yeah, 10 times the value now.
That was last year too, so it's gone up. That was last May.
Wow.
So think about that. So, all right. So we're going to go back into switch fields here. We're going to go into the music industry now, and somebody who lives right here in Georgia, Rick Ross. You heard about what he's doing now?
The boss, Ricky Ross.
Oh, he's bossing up even more so yet again. Not just rose, not the music. He's going ahead even higher. Little term there on the cannabis, right? A little bit higher. But anyways, he's teamed up with California-based cannabis company High Tolerance to create a unique strand called Collins Avenue. The collaboration promises to deliver the perfect high, providing users with blissful, happy, relaxed experiences. High Tolerance, for its strong roots in cannabis culture and the high-quality strains, has worked with numerous artists in the past, solidifying their presence in the music world. But this collab will take it to the next level. They're saying they're excited to partner up with some icon like Rick Ross because he's a true cannabis connoisseur. The strain is set to give you the ultimate high, have you feel good, says the High Tolerance co-founder. For Rick, It's a no-brainer. We know that. He's a declared fan of High Tolerance. I love their flower. They've got the best flower out and most consistent gas. This is why I've decided to team up with High Tolerance.
That sounds great. And he has been an open user from day one. He has not hid it. He has not shunned away. And it's great for him to actually get in that space. I salute him as a businessman. I follow his music movement, his business. He's a tremendous individual, and he should be rightfully within the space. So I definitely wish him the best in that case.
Well, we know that he's an avid consumer because he, in fact, even has said that the herb is part of his daily routine. He enjoys smoking cannabis in the morning. As soon as I get up, I look for it. I need that good gas in the morning. He gravitates towards indica. This is why he played an active role in creating the Collins Avenue strand. I tried a lot of flavors, and this one stuck with me. It hit like a boss. It's everything the Collins Avenue is. So how about this, though? He's saying that he's been a consumer since the age of 13. When he recognized he's a little bit young for everyone, Ross considered himself a cannabis connoisseur and aficionado. He believes that his taste in cannabis has a significant influence on his fans and is proud to be part of the cannabis culture. It'll be available
about time.
By the way. Right. Oh, yeah.
It's about time. I can see on that, what does he have, a 500-acre ranch?
Yep.
Is it 500 acre or 200 acre?
It's high. I'm not sure what, but he's got the cattle out there. We saw where he got boss beef delivered to him not that long ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now he can grow out there too. So we definitely, I guess, in our next discussion, let's see how Fayette County looks at cannabis. Right. So let's definitely talk about that in the next show.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could remember. We've been by it. I just can't remember his exact acreage. I don't know. Let's see. Well, it says here it's 235 acres of land and boasts a 45,000 square feet of living space.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So he's got the room.
Sounds great.
Absolutely. It's by the way, check this out. Of course, perfect timing. Here we are, about a week away. The launch of the Collins Avenue strand is to coincide with a private concert, which he will be at in Los Angeles. High Tolerance is also scheduled to open a dispensary in Las Vegas on April 20th, marking the company's first dispensary in the city after gaining popularity on the West Coast.
Okay. That sounds wonderful.
Plan. Mm-hmm. That's their current plan. They're going to have the website launched, High Tolerance. It's, he wants to do stuff in Colorado as well, Washington, Nevada. Anything that's touching the California border, we can deliver to. So they're going to have a delivery service on top of everything else as well.
Service for the people.
Mm-hmm. So he's going to be completely involved in this, and we know how Rick is. I mean, geez, let's be honest. Almost everything he's touched, honestly, has turned to gold, has it not?
It has. I mean, he's a really good businessman. I can say that he is very, very versatile. And once again, I salute him. He reigns supreme in my book.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just everything he's done has been absolutely fantastic. We've seen from the music to his roles in television, film, as well as anything else behind the scenes. He's just done a great job with it. So this is going to take it to the next level. And hopefully it's also going to up the game for others as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's becoming a normalcy now. And as more people get into it and align themselves with it, along with the success, and then also being able to maintain that mental balance and treatment from the power that the plant provides, man, it's going next level, man. It's going to be a normal day occurrence.
No, absolutely. And so we're going to bring in a couple of things here. We're going to switch into mental health, but we're going to talk about some opiate stuff as well and how cannabis could help with it. So how about this? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I had a friend of mine who actually lost a lifetime pet not long ago. And we thought about this. When we lose a friend, a family member, we have grieving time, and there you get bereavement pay, do you not? At a lot of companies.
Yes,
What
some do.
about what about animals? We create such a bond with the animals that I don't think that there's a lot for them to help move forward to get over in times. Think about it. 74% of pet owners have reported mental health improvements from ownership. Think about it. We can see the service dogs. I mean, for the most part, how hard is it to be in a bad mood when you have a dog coming up wanting to be happy to see you and play and love on you? It's kind of hard to be in a bad mood, is it not?
It is. A lot of people need that because they're not able to get that on a daily level. That's even from the people around them that either they brought into the world or they have the same blood.
Yeah.
Um, there's always been this thing. A dog's a man's best friend or a woman's best friend, and I can't emphasize the need for it for certain individuals when they don't have that love, they don't have that outlook. The things in life for them may not be at the top of success or just a good daily balance. A lot of people are dealing with tragedies and setbacks on a daily basis. So having that friend, um, as a pet, that's the new service. That's the new next level for emotional support.
No, absolutely, because 75% of pet owners report a friend or family's member mental health has improved from ownership. The scientific research that supports the human animal bond or the mutual beneficial relationship between people and pets for better mental health indicates that pets can make a difference for those facing mental health concerns, anxiety, depression, loneliness, and stress.
Yeah, that sounds right. It definitely sounds right.
No, absolutely. Because think, for example, we're going to kind of come into this for a minute. Opiate use. We've seen such a problem with that. Now, opiates, what would you say, or if not number one in the top three of prescribed drugs when it comes to different things, whether it be surgeries or whatnot? Does that sound fairly accurate?
I would agree. Any type of car accident, trauma, bone breakage,
Mhm.
even dealing with certain chronic illness, with its kidney, liver, um, you're giving those very very strong drugs that are altering. I mean,
Yeah.
they literally from the time of use starts and impact your life. You may get some form of pain relief, but the chronic problem of abuse starts after the first dose.
Right. No, absolutely. Because they're saying now that having any opiate prescriptions and having three or more opiate prescribed are negatively associated with unintentional opiate related death in people range between 10 years old and 45. The relationship between opiate prescription and suicide risk is a complex one. It's particularly in the case when people have their opiates tapered. People can become depressed if their pain is not well controlled. Yet opiates are also a greater risk of overdose than any other drug class. And approximately 40% of the overdose suicide deaths in the US involve opiates.
Wow, wow,
Right. That's why I'm
that's
pausing.
mind blowing.
Right. Let that sit and sink in for a moment. At a population level, the national decline in opiate prescribed over the last several years appear to have reduced the number of people who have died of suicide. So that's the bright news. But if opiate prescriptions per capita have held consistent from 2009 to 2017, okay, so we're going to take that window, there would have been an estimated 10.5% more suicide deaths involved in opiates in 2017 than in 2009.
Wow,
Increasing
wow,
the opiate related suicide deaths were 15%, 19, 9%, and 19%. Now, what I mean by that is that's your age range. So your 15% was your younger audience, that 10 to 24, and it goes up from there. But that 19% is those that are over 70. So we're
wow.
literally prescribing a drug that is killing at a 15% rate those that are over 70 years old, those who have slipped and fallen, broken a hip, broken a leg, had a surgery, whatever. And they're blaming it on the high dose prescription, long-term prescription, and the fact that you are sometimes being prescribed in a time frame 3 or more opiates. 3 or more.
Wow.
Does that not emphasize the problem that we already know that there is?
It does. Crazy. The numbers just have me just blown and thrown for a loop. I'm like, wow.
Right.
Wow. That's.
Yeah. My dad, who I'm trying to get on the CBD, and we've had this discussion, he's taking an opiate prescription 3 times a day for the pain that he's having, for the problems he's having. The doctors still have not found a way to diagnose what it is. And on top of that, he's getting behind the wheel and driving a car. Let's throw out the fact of the suicide rate. What about impairment of individuals driving vehicles? How many more deaths are we having because of that aren't related as a suicide, but have a direct correlation with this opiate problem? It's crazy. So now we're going to go through the next step a little bit. Go ahead. Throw that one out. I wasn't sure if your mic was still working.
Yeah, no, I can hear you. I mean, it hurts me deep and cuts me deep because I had a very, very close friend, like a brother, who died from an opiate overdose. That wasn't suicide. And just from his chronic back pains, he had been in several car accidents where he had back surgeries, re-aggravated the back surgery in another car accident. He had another accident where his car flipped over, and all I could just say is my heart always went out to him as he dealt with that pain.
Right.
And he stayed on those opioids for years, and it had unraveled his life. He did have a level of substance abuse because it is addictive.
Yes.
And it just, when I hear those stats, man, it hurts, it cuts deep. And it's just because when you have somebody so close to you and you see what they went through, and then for them to no longer be in this world, it's like a void that's still there. When people lose loved ones, it really cuts deep. So those numbers, it just blow me away to hear that stuff.
So now, with you saying that, wouldn't you say that it's fairly safe? Now, of course, we know there could have been other incidents. Like you said, car wreck could have happened. Though it was not suicide, it was opiate related. So if he was not on that medication to begin with, the possibility of his death should have been and would have been greatly reduced. Do you not agree?
Totally agree. Totally agree. No hesitation.
So if there wasn't suicide, there still was that incident of the opiate being an issue in said death.
Absolutely. And the one thing that we have to look at when we discuss this is that just overall itself, the classification of death itself, an overdose,
right?
They still don't categorize it as suicide.
Correct.
So,
but it's a direct correlation.
It is a direct correlation. It totally is. When you're trying to escape the pain and you administer yourself unsafe dosages, that now it exceeds your body's ability to cope, not only with the pain, but it put it in a permanent sedated state.
Right.
I mean, it's just hard to even fathom how does that work? How does that happen? Because true indeed, you have people that may tussle with the thought and the notion of being here in this world or not being here in this world.
Right.
But being here in this world, loving the son, loving a daughter, loving a mother, loving a father, it's so tough when you want to balance the pain,
right?
Subside the pain, live with the pain. I mean, and living with it chronically every day. You wake up to it, you go to bed to it, you work with it. And sometimes that pain can be so overbearing that you may take more dosages than what your body can actually handle just to deal with the pain. And I just one of my testimonies I said as being an athlete, an All American athlete playing football, what I subjected my body to when I decided to no longer play football. I can say that I wholeheartedly accepted it. I was happy. There from times there's some times where I may reminisce and feel like, man, what if I just did this, or what if I just did that? There were times where I said to myself, like, really realistically, if I'd have just sat out that game instead of playing on that aggravated injury and then, you know, popping, 8 to 12 pills a game just to deal with the pain. And I could have put myself, my overall body itself at risk. Um, could have had liver or kidney failure from the amount of Motrin, which is it's a pain relief, but at the same time, I was taking so much of it to cope and deal with the pain. And I'm just glad that I had a strong understanding and grasp of, nope, I don't want the opiates. Nope, I don't want it. Nope, I don't want it. And it's just because I've seen by example what it's done to people before, and I just say that I don't want that in my life. I can't have it. I don't care what the pain is. I'll deal with this right here. And at some point in time, I had to sit out a whole year to recover from an injury and a surgery, so that way that I didn't have to subject myself to that immense pain, one game after the next, tearing my body up even more. Um, I know the cortisone shot itself, it tricks your body that it's not hurt, but it's really hurt, and you're in total immense pain,
Right.
and you can damage your body to where you do not get back what you temporarily lost. You may permanently lose it by subjecting your body to some of those powerful drugs and medicines that are out there. So, for everybody that's listening, who can relate to what I'm saying, hey man, my hats out to you. Try to maintain some form of a balance or regimen, no matter how you're ridiculed, no matter how you may be persecuted for trying to properly medicate yourself and maintain your peace of mind and a balance for your body that's pain free. The people who don't know, who are creating these laws that go after people for doing things, provide the resources to help them safely administer and also rehabilitate them if they just so happen to become an addict from that use. These are things that this is having a heart at the end of the day. That's all I'm asking.
Right. And I want to ask you this. I saw this the other day, for example, and this is not a knock on coaches. Coaches are phenomenal. Most of them are outstanding. And I think we can agree on that. But at the same point, do you not think that the philosophy and the mindset has changed from a coaching aspect from, let's just go 20, 30 years ago? For example, saw a thing the other day on MLB and some of the players were discussing it where they saw the coach having fun and joking around with his teammates in the dugout, which was great. But they also talked about how now coaches are saying, hey, give the player the day off. I don't want you doing this activity. I don't want you doing any of this stuff. To whereas there was that mindset before where you played every day. It's almost like, not going to say the words that they were setting you up and wanting you to fail, but their mindset and the way they presented it was, if you're not playing today, what good are you for this team? So did those players start thinking, if I can't perform, if this injury is not bad enough for me to be hurt to where I'm missing time, I've got to play, because if not, the coach is not going to want me on this team. He's not going to have me start. He's not going to have me play. How much did that cause a problem of the mindset of the player that is now a residual effect?
You're along the right lines with that question, Nate. And I guess the best way to approach that is in the individual
Mm-hmm.
itself. And this is just what I just mentioned, just in the discussion about my personal afflictions of being subjected to immense pain.
And don't get me wrong, there's some great coaches. I mean, coaches have helped mold and shaped individuals for decades. This is not knocking coaches. There are some, of course, which is, I know it's a generic statement, but I just want to get your mindset from playing college ball. How much do you think that plays into the player's mindset?
All of that is a combination of a couple of things. What type of sports medicine program that was available for each team, and how good, educated, and effective that their physical therapists were. Um, I can't emphasize that teams that have a higher athletic budget that can have state of the art facilities and equipment for rehabilitation. These are things that help you recover. When you come from schools that don't have a tremendous budget or endowment to support the athletic program, those things, corners are cut.
Right.
Just even the field conditions are important components of a player. The difference between a player avoiding injury to having an injury is the surface conditions of the field. When you have poor field conditions, it attributes to injuries directly. I would say 99 out of 100% literally attributes toward that. So it's a lot of those are factors that you got to add into it as well.
Absolutely. So now I want to go. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to give you some stats, and then we're going to do some of this updated best that we can, because some of these are a little bit older stats. But this is some talk about where we went this whole last half hour on opiates, on mental health, suicide, and whatnot. The average adjusted suicide rate, now this was from 2020, 13.48% to 100,000 individuals. That's the suicide rate. Now, remember, that is the ones who actually have gone through, not attempted, not discussed, not planned, none of that, just actually went through it. The rate is highest between middle-aged white males. 2020, men by suicide, 3.88% more than women. Now, keep this in mind, too. The male population is 49%. So that means that 80% of those suicides were male.
Okay.
White males accounted for the 69.68 in 2020, it says. But on average, there are 130 suicides per day. Now, this is discussion in terms of the U.S. stats. We're going to give some other ones in a minute. 130 per day. Again, that's not attempted. That's not car wrecks that, hey, the individual, as they call secondhand, that's the ones that actually followed through. Firearms accounted for 52.83 of all suicide deaths. 12.2 million adults, 18 and over now. Remember that, 18 and over, not 50, 60, 18 and over, have seriously thought about it. 3.2 million have made a plan, 1.2 attempted. So we're almost at just under 2% that have ever thought about it have actually attempted. Now, how about this? For every suicide death, there are 4 hospitalizations with an attempt. So remember, we said roughly 130 per day. So times 130 by 4, that's the attempts. 8 ER visits, 8 times 130. 27 self-reported attempts. So 27 times 130. Suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in 2020. 46,000 reported, keyword reported, died by suicide a year per 100,000. Okay, now look at these numbers. This is starting at 2011. The rate in 2011 was 12.4. 2016, 13.4. 17, 14%. 18, slightly went up to 14.2. 2020, it did go down a little bit, 13.5. But again, we were in the midst of COVID. All right. What about your age ranges? You know about that one? 15 to 24-year-olds, 14.2%. 25 to 34, 18.4%. 35 to 44, 17%. 45 to 54, 18. 65 to 74, 18.4%. But how about this? 85 years and older, almost 21% of their deaths are suicide. Would you have ever thought that those 85 and over were the highest rated of suicide deaths?
Nate, that those numbers are staggering. The breathtaking.
Yeah.
And it hurts my heart, just to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
When you think about our seniors, as they get older, become more frail, more weaker. Just imagine either their children left the world before them, or just imagine their children not being there to help them and support them. As our seniors go into hospice care or elderly care centers, and they're not able to do for themselves, you have people that's abusing them, taking advantage of them, and they're just trying to live out the rest of their days easy, at peace, with some level of just some type of calmness in their life. And for the ones that don't have it, God help them.
Right.
And my heart goes out to them under those circumstances. And like I said, mental health is something that, from one person to the next, we all have these feelings where we see a dark moment, a dark notion, something may take our minds into this space that we if we're too impulsive, we may act on a bad notion, and it turns out to be suicide. For the ones who survive that bad notion, still, once again, we still have to have a good balance in life. We have to have good friends and good people around us to be able to survive the rigors of this life in this world that we live on.
Now, how about this? This is kind of shocking. And in 2020, at least, the rates in the U.S. were lower in the winter and higher in the spring. You would think that would be the exact opposite.
I have an answer for that.
Okay.
In the spring, I would associate the spring with a social period of time. We socialize more in the spring and summer than we do in the fall or the winter.
True.
The weather itself restricts us and restricts social activities. It definitely restricts outdoor activities. So you have more stress to upon you uh, when you're trying to seek support and assurance from friends that you may or may not get, or from family that you may or may not get. I think that may be one of the reasons why, is that it's seasonal. And I think it has to do with social influence, social acceptance. I think it puts a lot of pressure on people.
Makes sense. Now, they're saying that the rates are higher in the western states above the national average, while lower in the eastern and midwestern states, which I thought was a little intriguing. I'm not sure why that mindset would be, but okay. 90% of all people who died by suicide have psychiatric diagnosis at the time of their death, so major depression.
Yeah, life is tough. Things change quick in the snap of a finger. I mean, you can lose your job, you can lose a loved one, you can lose your investment. People have been bamboozled. People get swindled and bamboozled on a daily basis. That can cause you to lose hope. Losing health and vitality, that can cause you to lose hope.
Right.
Having a terminal illness can cause you to lose hope. There are so many things that can create despair in people's lives. So we have to look at that and look at a way how we can help and remedy that.
Right. And Mark, I don't know how much you've been able to hear, but we've gone through different stuff, and we're closing off with some different stats, which are honestly mind-blowing if you weren't able to hear some of it. Still got some left, but it's the discussion about the suicide and mental health, which May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to hit on that big. But for example, right here, every 8 minutes, someone in the United States dies of suicide. That means during this show that at least, what did I come up with? we've got almost 20 people just in the U.S. that have died of suicide during this hour. Just that alone. The leading risk factors include depression, substance abuse, hopelessness, domestic violence, and childhood trauma. We all know people that have gone through that. Every one of us. Did you know that there are twice as many suicides as there were homicides in the U.S.? Think about that. How much do we hear on the news about a shooting, a robbery, or whatever, and there's twice as many suicides as there were those? Why are we not bringing this more to the front line to try to help people with it? We're sweeping it under the rug. Still. You know,
it's been swept under the rug for years.
Absolutely. You know, I threw out a stat earlier. I don't know if you heard it, but I'm going to bring this back up real quick since you're on here. Men die by suicide almost 4 times more than women. 49% of the population is male. 80% of the suicides are male.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about it. I mean, you've got the societal norms of everyone telling guys to man up all the time. It doesn't exactly help that they're also the ones that go into the military and go into war areas more. They're also ones that have a lot of pressure to take care of entire households.
Right.
You know,
the
from
breadwinner.
Yeah, exactly. From, a monetary standpoint. So men are taught if they don't make money or if they're not 6 feet tall and they don't have 6 figures, then they're not good enough their entire lives.
Worthless.
So it's no surprise to me. And even myself, I mean, I almost tried to kill, well, not almost, I did try to kill myself. There was a lot of effort involved a few years ago during COVID. So it's something where we definitely need a lot more of the stigma removed. I think that opening up our eyes to what medical cannabis and CBD and all of these different natural things like shrooms and microdosing and everything else, I think people are starting to open up to that because they realize that it's not going away. I mean, the 60s was our first real movement into being okay with psychedelics as a country, as a nation. But now we're in our second wind, right? So now we've got all of this new, which isn't really new, but new research to back up old findings or old theories. And if you look at it from a medical standpoint, a lot of the things in health now that are being touted are about mental health. And I think that we all need to fall in line with that and get out of our old ways of thinking and challenge people who say differently.
Right. Like, for example, here, more Americans suffer from depression than coronary heart disease, 7 million, cancer, 6 million, and AIDS, 200,000 combined.
Yeah. And if you think about that, so my brother is a nurse and my dad was in the medical field as a pharmacist, and my mom was also a nurse. So lots of input, lots of experience in that medical field in my family. And when I was talking to my brother about this and the whole family, the number one thing that kills people in any kind of environment is stress. That's the number one. So if you think about it, stress is what causes mental issues. Stress is what causes physical issues. Stress can cause heart attacks. Stress can cause acne. It can cause everything from the outside to the inside to, everything else. And this is something I've said probably a few hundred times now, and I will continue to say it forever, is unlike every other, major thing you think about, we think about our brain differently. So if you have a heart problem, you go to a cardiologist. If you have lung problems, you go to a pulmonologist. If you have skin problems, you go to a dermatologist. If you have all of these different problems with your major organs, then you go to a specialist. And our brain is the biggest, most important organ that we have. And somehow we think that we're going to miraculously fix it by talking to our friends on Facebook and listening to some idiot, who has no idea what their own mental health diagnosis is, to tell us what we need to do and drink more water and do more of this. And I'm telling you right now, you'll drown yourself before you can fix, with water, before you'll fix your own depression.
And you can dry drown. That is a fact. Look it up. It's mind-blowing, but it's true. And I think this stat's low, but it says 15% of the population will suffer from clinical depression at some point in their life. I think that's
incredibly low.
I do too.
Especially with social media.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the thing about social media is, and I tell people all this time, for example, I had a friend years ago on Twitter who was like, "Who's that person you're talking to on Twitter?" Because we're talking about the Braves or whatever. And I remember looking at him and go, "It's called social media, not I socially know this person in real life." But it's true, because what do? We do, number one, we give people the presentation of what they want or think they need to see of us on social
So,
media.
from
Not
a
true.
psychological standpoint, that's called meeting our representative. So I learned about this in high school. Most people don't, but because again, we don't focus on mental health in high school, in college, in middle school, in elementary school, at any time.
No.
Ever, right? Not even in adulthood. In adulthood, if you want to take a sick day, you can't call it a mental health day, because then they just think you're lazy and don't want to come to work. But it's incredibly funny, because when you think about the people that we have in the positions of power that are making the decisions, they also have no idea about medical or mental health. So it's the blind leading the blind, and the sick leading the sick, for all intents and purposes.
Right. Because 30% of all clinically depressed patients attempt it. Half of them will ultimately die by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And how about this one? Depression, they say, is the most treatable form of a psychiatric illness. Between 80% and 90% of people with depression respond positively to treatment. And almost all patients gain relief from the symptoms. But first, you have to recognize there is a depression. But here's my question on that part. An alcoholic, a drug user, they respond positively, do they not, to these, in trials and whatnot? But how many of them relapse? So you're telling me that even though 80% and 90 respond positively, I'm sure they do, how many of those will relapse in terms of that?
Almost all of them.
I was going to say that, almost 100%. So why are we not refocusing on the follow-up?
Because you have to understand that depression isn't something you can fix. So when you talk about relapse, it's not like addiction where you're relapsing into something that was preventable without this outside factor or force. Depression is because of the neurons in your brain that are firing in a way that some people don't fire. So that it isn't something you can just fix. There isn't it's learning to live with those things and learning to cope with them and learning what your triggers are. And then once you find out what your triggers are, trying to avoid those or trying to figure out how to cope with them and learning coping mechanisms that you can teach your brain to trick itself, basically not to fall into a really bad depression. So when you read articles that talk about, dealing with it, I would trust those articles more than people who talk about fixing it or curing it or getting out of it. You never get out of depression. You just get out of those depressive thoughts for that moment.
Right. Because, for example, alcohol, and we've all partake, we all know people, it's part of almost everyday life, to be honest. Okay. Alcoholism, first of all, is an issue. Alcohol, second of all, is a depressant. And thirdly, it factors in 30% of all completed, not attempted, completed suicides.
Yep. And if you have anything that's a depressant, I mean, alcohol is obviously the most accessible to everybody in the US.
Absolutely.
After that, it's going to be prescription medication, misprescribed, because people are much more interested in a quick fix. So they think that a pill will fix their brain more than talk therapy, when most people don't even know what they're treating. They don't know why they're depressed. They don't know what's going on in their brain. They don't know what their triggers are. They don't know what the root cause is. And so they go to a doctor looking for an easy fix to something that's not easy. And then they end up taking a medication that puts them either, if you look at 90%, and that's just a guess, but I'm guessing 90% of all depression medication says that suicidal thoughts are one of the side effects.
Yes, absolutely.
Talk therapy, guess what, is not a side effect. Anything, no. Nothing.
No, without going into huge detail, my son has asked to go to see a counselor in the last year or so, which I think is fantastic. I'm 100% behind it. We're going tomorrow, actually. And he decided that he wanted to get on some medication for anxiety. Again, if that's what he wants to do, I'm for it. That wasn't my mindset 15, 20 years ago. I was against medication, but times have changed. My thoughts have changed. Hey, let's go for it. One of the first things in there was, Keep track of how this makes you feel because it could create suicidal ideology.
Yep.
I mean, we get that, but still, when you hear it, you're like, okay, wait, what? I'm literally trying to take this to prevent this. So this is going to encourage it?
So one of the things that's become rampant in studies lately is teens who are taking anxiety medication or depression medication and getting them to try cannabis, getting them to try microdosing, getting them to try other things in clinical trials, obviously very, heavily monitored because they are, underage. But we are also in an epidemic of prescribing medication to kids who haven't fully developed mentally. And so if you have someone who's undeveloped mentally, and then you put them on a medication that stifles their development, it's a double whammy.
Right.
So what they're trying to do now is figure out, okay, how can we encourage neuroreceptor response, which is the connections between our neurons, while the brain is still growing without stopping the ones that need to form in the future. So it's kind of exciting to know that that's going on. It's kind of terrifying as well, I'm sure, for you as a parent of a teenager, but it's kind of exciting as well because knowing that when I grew up, I was told to just suck it up. It didn't matter what it was. Rub some dirt in it. Didn't matter if it was a wound, physical or not. So now that we're at least focusing on those aspects of mental health more, and especially with, this industry and what the products that it has to offer, I think is incredibly exciting, especially for someone like myself who could have massively benefited from that research and massively benefited from these products when I was growing up with these issues that were completely unresolved and undiagnosed.
Well, at the same point, to expound on what you said, it was walk it off. It was always, you were responded in a negative light to begin with. It's only
you were
worse.
responsible for your feelings.
Right.
It was the opposite of what we have now, which is the people who are offended by everything. It was the exact opposite of that. It was, if you're offended, it's your problem. Now, if I'm offended, it's your problem. So it's completely flipped 180, right? And so if you think about in all the things that we used to internalize, thinking it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. Now the generation that's growing up is saying everything is everyone else's fault. So they're not accepting any personal responsibility for their thoughts or actions. So it's becoming a different problem, but also the same it's interesting to watch.
No, I agree. And, one of these things, and these stats I'm about to give you, they're gun related. They're not because of, the shootings and whatnot, but I just want to give them to you. So the U.S. ranks 45th in 219 countries listed in this, okay? Mm-hmm. Worldwide homicide versus suicide rate per 100,000 people. In the U.S., 6.3 homicides, but 14.5 suicides. So we're double that. Mass shootings, as we know, they've been covered, data revealed.
I mean, we live in Atlanta, man. We get shot at every day.
Right. Well, Atlanta, Las Vegas, New York, Chicago, Detroit. But anyways, we can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Data revealed suicides are more commonly cause of firearm-related deaths than a homicide.
Say that one again.
Okay. Data has revealed that suicides are more common cause with firearms-related deaths than a homicide. So that means people are killing people with a knife, a car, or other forms than they are actually a weapon when you compare these two causes side by side.
Well, I guess if you think about it, right, a suicide, you have to kill yourself. And if you don't have access to a gun, then you're going to use something else. When I tried, I didn't have a gun. And I was terrified if I shot myself that I'd fail. And so, when you have other methods, that would make sense that guns would not be the number one cause of suicide. Because if you think about it, it's really hard to shoot yourself.
Right. Well, like they said in 2020, 54% of all firearm-related deaths were suicide. 43 were homicide. 2 were accidental discharge. I lost a good friend due to accidental discharge.
Alec Baldwin is about to go to prison because of accidental discharge, and that was supposed to be a blank bullet. Wasn't even supposed to be a live round.
Right. 53% of gun deaths in Georgia are by firearm suicide, an average of just under 1,000 a year. Just under. Now listen to this. This is kind of interesting. And then I'll have a closing thought here in a minute. France. This is suicide versus murder rates. France, 12.5 suicide, 1.3 murder rate. Spain, 5.8 compared to 1.2. The UK is 7.1 in suicide compared to 0.07 of a murder rate.
Yeah, but you also have to think about the population in those areas. Those countries are so tiny. They're the size of one of our states. So
Right.
I hate when people compare us, like in the US. We need to be compared to all of Europe.
Correct.
You know what I mean? If we were compared landmass wise and population wise to all of Europe, then I think it would be a much fairer comparison than each individual small country, because that'd be like you need to compare Spain to like Alabama. You know what I mean? Or Spain to Georgia, maybe for people and mass and land mass wise. But I mean, I get it. I get the point you're making. But.
No, I agree with you, because I was going to throw this in a minute. I got two more I want to mention. I was going to mention this. Russia is 22.8 suicide to 7.7 of murder. U.S. is 11.7 to 4.9. Now, the reason why I was saying those is, and I'm glad you brought that up. For example, without going that whole thing, but a few years back when Bernie Sanders was running for presidential, kept talking about the, free healthcare in Denmark and all of this stuff. And I'm saying that because my grandmother's from Denmark. Okay, Denmark's population is less than the state of Georgia. So to sit here and say Denmark has this and we as a nation should have this, you're not comparing apples to apples. So it's not a fair comparison. And I agree with you. Stats show what I want you to see, not what the truth is all the time. Okay.
Well, yeah, it's a snapshot. It's one number to make a judgment on. So it's great for politicians to use because they can make up a stat and, it doesn't matter if it actually exists or not. They'd be like, oh, well, 90% of people said this, according to who, what, when, and where, and why.
Well, and two great things by getting this next stat, and I've brought this up many times. Look at the Family Feud. They always say of the people we surveyed. They never said we surveyed 50, we surveyed 1,000, we surveyed 1 million. What percent of what we surveyed? Okay, so if they surveyed 6 people, that's not accurate. What is your broad range of your study size of your scope? You're not telling us that. So that's not fair at all.
Yeah.
But how about this? 50% of the people in the U.S. know someone who has died by suicide in their lifetime. 50%.
I know a lot.
Right.
I know a lot.
And I heard this a few years ago, and it really resonated with a friend of mine who died. Think about this. They came out with this statement that said, I now have to remember you longer than I knew you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that blows me away.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, this one stat, for example, this is on the calendar here. Where is it? I'm looking at. Sorry. I've completely lost it. Suicides this year. Now, this is the world counter. Suicides this year, almost 300,000. We're just under that, and we're in April.
Yeah.
300,000. Road fatalities is just under 400,000. Just to kind of give you a scope side by side there.
Yep. Cars don't kill people. People kill people.
Correct. This is what I want to say in closing. Sam, if you're still there, if you want to give any closing thoughts before I give this, then I'll hit Marky. But this is kind of what brought the whole thing up to me. Sam, you there? Do you want to give a closing thought? I don't know if you left or not. You may have. Okay, I think you did. Marky, is there anything you want to throw out before I do this one closing thought? Because this is very deep to me, honestly.
Yeah, no, especially me as well. And I hope I can make it next week for the whole time. And maybe you guys can come here to the warehouse again. But, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I want everybody to know that it is something that we all need to be aware of. We all need to be a little bit more cognizant of what other people go through every day. We all have our own journey. We all have our own things. So being able to remove our own personal emotions when we're interacting with others for that first few minutes to make sure that we're allowing them space to have their own feelings and thoughts is always important. And it's with the people that are closest to you most. I think we always think about the people that aren't, close to us, not our family, not our friends. It won't happen to them. It won't happen to us. So I think those are the people that we need to focus on more, the people that are closest to us, because they tend to be so close that sometimes we forget about those little details.
No, absolutely, because that's actually going to kind of tie into this little closing thing. Literally, to give you a concept before I'm going to get you to mention your company for a minute. I've gone down the wormhole too many times, the rabbit hole, however you want to say it. I've started following some stuff on TikTok. I've actually posted them on my Instagram stories and whatnot because there's a lot of good things I found on there. And this particular one I found last night, and my gosh, I love it. But before I say it, you want to hit anything on your company real quick, promote it, have people how they can reach out to you, and then I'll hit on this.
Yeah, sure. I actually happen to have a brand new product right here that I will show you. So this is going to be the pineapple pear, and this is going to be one of our newer blends. It's Delta 8, THCA, THCP, and then the PHG. So I know that we have talked a little bit about the THCA, and this is actually a phenomenal brand. I tried this out last night. This actually comes in a 2-pack. So you and a friend can share this. I'll open this up for you so you can see in here. It's actually just two little devices right here, and there's and who doesn't love a 2-pack, especially when you find a really good flavor like pineapple pear. Yeah, so that's one of our newest products. The other one that I wanted to tell you about was this guy. So I've got one of these right here. This is the Viva La Shroom. This is our 5th brand of mushrooms that we have in. They also have a Viva La Hemp, and the Viva La Hemp is delicious. I mean, it's hard to find a really good tasting gummy. So I'm going to try these shrooms this weekend. I'll let you guys know next week what the shrooms are like. But I know that the hemp is delicious, and they're very strong as well. So this is going to be a 50 milligram per gummy of those shrooms. And there we go. And like we say on the back, right, it's got that COA, so you can go see exactly what you're taking outside of just the description. So yeah, those are some little product highlights for you guys for today.
And remember, we're a week away from 420. There's a lot going on for 420.
I know.
I'm excited. On being at one of the things we're at.
Yeah, I mean, with 420, obviously that's one of my favorite days of the year, right? Favorite time of day, favorite day of the year. So, and it happens twice a day. Only happens once a year, though. So
I've heard there's 2 420s in a day, but I only see one of them.
Well, if you try hard enough, through God, all is possible. So
I've seen it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's exciting for us as well. We have a lot of people doing a lot of different specials. So if people are looking for things to buy, looking for places to go, things to do, people to see, any of those, you can just hit us up. And then you can also text me. My number is 470-904-0497. Again, the number is 470-904-0497. If you guys want to know what to do or where to go or what to buy for 420 this year, I can help you out with that.
All right. Well, before I hit the closing thought, a couple of things. One, we'll reiterate next week too. 420 is fun, but be careful. Don't go outside your normal realm of what you've done, where you've done it. Be with people who you trust and help you. That could be a day where, you know what, like St. Patrick's Day, people try to go too far too fast, show up, and it could be issues. Be careful.
Yeah, I mean, also though, this is a fun time to experiment. If you have friends who are, 420 friendly and you're not, but you want to try it out, this is a great opportunity because it's just like a cult, man. If you like something and you find someone else who likes it, join them. If you can't beat them, join them.
Just be in that safe range. Just be with people who you trust, people who can help you. That's all. That's what I want.
And just know you cannot overdose on weed.
Right. Exactly.
All you're going to do is get horny, hungry, or sleepy.
Exactly. So your 3 normals a day just intensify. But got it. Exactly.
I mean, some people add in happy if they're not already happy, but I'm telling you, happy, hungry, horny, sleepy. That's pretty much all that weed's going to do for you.
Pretty much. So I want to hit this.
No major side effects.
This really got to me when I heard it the other day. It's very deep, and I think it's very true. It's a little long-winded, but still important. So think about this. Our time in history. We have taller buildings, but shorter tempers. Wider freeways, but narrower viewpoints. We spend more, but have less. We buy more, but we enjoy less. We have bigger houses, but smaller families, more conveniences, but less time to enjoy them. We have more degrees, but less sense, more knowledge, but less judgment, more more experts, yet more problems with medicine.
It's just these are our prices.
More medicines, but our wellness is too increased. We drink too much, we smoke too much, we begin too much, able to recall. It's all gone. Drive too fast, we get angry too quick, we stay up too late, we get up too tired. We read God's word too little, but we watch too much TV. We seldomly pray, and yet we have learned how to make a living, but not how to be alive. We've added years to life, but not life to our years.
Well, just tell me how much.
We've been all the way around the world and back, but we have trouble crossing the street to meet a new neighbor. We've conquered outer space, but yet not our inner space. We've cleaned up the air, but polluted our soul. We've conquered the atom, but not our prejudice. We write more, but we've learned less. We plan more, but we accomplish less. We learn to rush, but not how to wait. We build more computers to hold more information, to produce more copies than ever, but yet we communicate less and less. These times are a fast food, slow digestion, big men but small character, steep profits but shallow relationships. These are the days of 2 incomes, yet more divorces, fancier houses but more broken homes. These are the days of quick trips, disposable diapers, throw away, less mortality, one-night stands, pills that can do everything from cheer you up to keep you quiet. There's too much in that showroom window, but not enough in the stockroom. It's a time where technology can bring this message, and a time where you can choose to either share the insight or just hit delete. So remember, spend time with your loved ones because they won't be around forever. Remember to say a kind word to someone who looks up to you in awe, because that little person's soon going to grow up and leave your side. Remember to give a warm hug to the one next to you, because the one that treasures you can give from your heart that doesn't cost you a cent. And remember to say I love you to your partner, to your loved ones. But most of all, know what it means when you say it. A kiss and embrace can either hurt or calm.
Yeah, nice.
From deep inside. So remember to hold hands and cherish the moments, because someday that person won't be there. Take time to read God's word. Take time to pray. Take time to speak. Time to be alive. Time to share those precious thoughts of your mind. For our life is not measured by the breath that we take,
Okay,
but
so
by the moments, and the moments that take our breath away.
sure, yeah, I see it.
It's just a little something I wanted to share in closing, because we don't stop to remember all the little things every day, because this life is too quick, too fast. We need to slow down and remember to appreciate it.
I have so many smart aleck things I want to say, but I will refrain.
You and I can have that conversation later, but
I'm like, you're right. I hate my neighbor. She's awful.
I mean, some of it, I agree with you on that, but there's some parts where it's like,
No, it's true. We don't take enough time to do, the things that our ancestors did, whether that is go outside or enjoy, something simple. Instead, we're go, 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 go. And out of all of that, it's funny. One of the comments I wanted to make was, yeah, well, of course we're spending more and getting less. Hello, inflation. Like,
no, that's right. Exactly. No, you're right.
But yeah, no, we get a lot less out of experiences. And I think it's because it's just like conversations, right? We find ourselves waiting to talk instead of listening. And I feel like we find ourselves waiting to leave work. So
we also take too many pictures to remember, but not understand that moment that we're trying to remember either.
True. And also, I take too many pictures and never share them. I just take pictures to take pictures, and I'm like, nailed it. And then I'm like, well, I don't want everyone on social media to know my whole life. So how else am I going to share these and why?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in the closing, thank you everybody for being here. Try to take some of these points, apply them, help somebody else, listen to someone, take that moment.
Yeah.
Not just hear them say, I'm okay, I'm all right, I'm fine.
Ask a few more questions. Yeah.
Correct. Take that time to listen to them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And try trust me, when it comes to mental health in May, we're going to digest a lot more and dig deeper. This was something I had to go into today. I know we went over time, but I thank you for joining.
Put some together for next week. Some other products that'll definitely help with anxiety and depression. I'll get with our partners and see what they would recommend. And we've got a lot of new stuff since I talked to you guys last. So.
All right. Well, great. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's get it set up and let's see what we can do. But thank you for coming
awesome.
on.
Well, thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You guys all have a great week and we will see you next Wednesday.
Bye.